All right, episode 38. Let's go. So, JJ, thanks for being back today. How you doing, man?
Good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just good.
Well, yeah. Hanging in there, man.
Cool,
You know,
man.
day
Dylan,
by day.
thanks for coming on.
Yeah, for
Glad you're
sure.
in town.
Dude, I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, it's good that we've been trying to get this going for a while. How you doing?
I'm good. It's kind of weird that I'm actually in town and this came up because I knew that there was a reason for me to be here, and it kind of just came up again, and I was like, wow, I totally forgot. And then I'm around, and I had a bunch of free time, so it kind of just worked out. It's a blessing.
Yeah, man, that's awesome. So I mean, today I want to get into your story. I want to understand your path and journey with addiction and recovery.
Okay.
So just to start off, can you just tell us a little bit about you? Your how you grew up, what you're doing now, just a couple little things about yourself?
Yeah, for sure. I'd love to. So I grew up in a pretty broken home. My earliest childhood memory is my dad being, wheelchair bound by a stroke that he had when I was really young. And ever since then, I lost kind of protection and kind of like a father figure and all the things that a young guy would need. So I kind of all relied on my mom, right? And we kind of grew up not having daily living skills, and just certain things kind of went wrong because my mom was hurting herself. So it just turned into a lot of trauma. Getting older though, I started fitting in with the wrong crowd. Just turned to the streets for love and ended up just making bad decisions. I didn't know what love was. I didn't really know how to treat people. Uh,
So you didn't have support at home growing up.
I mean, I did, but it wasn't the most healthy support. It was more like we were trying to survive as a whole, as a family, and there wasn't a lot of emotional connection because there was a lot of pain from my mom's childhood and just our family just kind of being broken and not really know how to handle that stuff.
Was it from substance or was it from? You don't have to share if you don't want. If it was from something else, but
So my mom had family trauma just with people in her life, and my dad was drug trauma and drinking, and it didn't really help my mom cope with her stuff either because my dad wasn't very reliable growing up.
so he was an alcoholic. Is that
And a drug addict, yep. So he had a stroke when I was really young due to drug addiction and using needles and just all that stuff that came with that, and it broke our house. It broke at a very young age. I mean, you can imagine that how confused we were because we lost our dad, and
right?
so it just turned into a lot of chaos. Having to rely on our mom to be the dad too, and I don't think that she was prepared for that to raise us on her own.
Did you have any other support outside of your mom, or any uncles or any other family that could be there, or was it just you, your mom, your sister?
Just me, my mom, and my sister for the most part. Uh, my other family kind of just did their own thing, and I mean we would go see them a lot, but we lived way far away, so it was pretty tough for us to get into their
Right.
space.
Um. So were you aware growing up that you had kind of a genetic predisposition for addiction?
No, I didn't understand it at all. I thought that it was mostly a product of my environment. I mean, I was sadly mistaken when I found out that that's not necessarily always true. Um, but I did grow up in a broken home, and the people I hang out with also were pretty broken, especially the kids in my neighborhood and stuff like that. And we all kind of came from the same area with the same trauma and just living in a small town. Everybody knew each other, and it was easy to run away and just kind of trying to get away from the pain at home, and being bullied at school and all that stuff. So you just try to fit in where you can.
Right. And then, so those people that you were running away with, were they were involved with substance and things too?
Yeah, definitely. And a lot of us started at the same age. We just experimented together because we didn't like going home.
How old were you when you
Uh,
tried
so the
something?
first time I ever smoked a cigarette or had anything like that, I was about 10 years old. Um, it was at a baseball field, and it was late at night. I think it might have been homecoming day, for our high school. It might have been homecoming day, and yeah, my family tried to stop me too. Like my sister was there, and she tried to tell me just don't do it, don't be dumb. And it turned in both of us just kind of experimenting with cigarettes, and I think that truly opened the door of small permissions with my life. Like, hey, I know this is wrong, but it's kind of fun, or
Right.
I can get away with it, and it opened the door for me to like want to experiment more with other things and just kind of run away because I felt like I fit in.
Like you and your sister are you still close? I know you used to be
Yeah,
like pretty
so
close with her.
it's pretty funny. So me and my sister are best friends. Like she's like not even my second half. She's like me, and I'm like her.
Right.
And it's kind of cool because when we get together, people are like, "Wow, I can't believe there's two of them."
Mm,
Like that's what I
right.
mean. So she's my rock, dude, and she kind of holds it together for me, and I hold it together for her, and we're kind of just, we're just trying to be the change in our family. So it takes a long time to. So I'm the last one of my dad's bloodline. I'm the last
Mm-hmm.
kid, and if we don't get it right now, our kids are in jeopardy too. So it's like breaking a generational curse, and it starts here, and that's kind of what our goal is now. We're just working together to achieve that, and
That's awesome because I
yeah,
mean JJ talks about that too. Like some of us are trying to break that generational thing that our families have, and it's actually interesting. 10 years old, like we seem to have quite a few people that start very young.
Yeah, we're
Like
we're different. Like, yeah, we really started getting into our, addiction, and I was 23,
right, I was in my
24.
mid 20s.
mm-hmm.
I mean, I tried stuff early, but I didn't get into addiction.
Right.
So you just smoked cigarettes at 10, or did you try
Yeah, I
drugs
tried
too? Or
marijuana the first time shortly after that, but it didn't really stick. I was kind of just scared. I was like, man, I don't. It just scared me. Like I knew it was wrong, and I mean, I was more addicted to like video games and running around and running away from school and stuff like that. But it still was addiction. It still was rebelling. It still
right.
put a sour taste in my parents' mouth, and
So
I put a label on me.
are you okay with mentioning your sister a little bit, or do you not want to?
I mentioned her a little bit.
Well,
I mean,
I want to ask, like, you said that she tried to stop you from
yeah,
using, but I know that at some point she started doing those things.
yeah. It was
So was she like, did she try to stop you in the beginning and then she kind of joined you as after a couple years, or how did that play out?
So she had her own path. She kind of she went with a different crowd. We kind of moved away, and she kind of hanging out with different people and went her own path. And we ended up reconnecting a few years down the road. But when I was younger, when I first started experimenting, she'd be like, "I'm telling mom, don't be dumb," like because we had a good head on our shoulders. Like we wanted to go to school, and she's like, "I'm telling on you." Like we were really young though.
What's the age difference between you and your sister?
She's 30 and I'm 28, so
Oh,
Two
yeah,
years.
2 years.
a year and a half.
All right.
Yeah.
So even coming from that, you said you had a broken home.
Yeah.
Even coming from that, you guys realized that you needed to do something better
Yeah.
to have a different outcome,
Yeah.
but somehow you still were sucked into that path because of the social influences.
Yeah, basically, and it didn't come until later. So like, she had her first kid, got sober, still struggled with it. She ended up getting sober, and like I seen the difference. Like I ended up going to prison, going to jail, in and out of jail for 5 years straight. Out of 8 years, I spent 5 years incarcerated. And she tried hard to stick by my side, but like it turned out like I had to find an external kind of love, like a divine love or something that really
Right.
showed me that I had a stronger path in my life or a purpose. And we used to have this saying where it's like you got to find something worth living for. It's also worth dying for. And sometimes our kids just aren't enough. Like I got a 9-year-old daughter, and she just wasn't enough when she was born to keep me sober. But I have a really good influence in my sister's kids' lives now, and just being sober and realizing that I can be sober a little bit, get my head a little right. It kind of opened a door of like, man, we don't want our kids to go through what we went through. I don't want anybody in the world, anybody in my life to feel the way that I ever felt, because I was miserable, suicide, all that stuff, and it's just not the way to live. So we just realized that our family was pretty broken. There's a lot of trauma, a lot of codependency, just a lot of certain things that we don't want to live with anymore, that we don't want our kids to live with, to grow up with, and we just want them to be connected before, because our family's getting older, man,
Right.
and they might not be they might not be around for a long time.
It's good that you're aware of this, though.
Yeah, right.
Like, you're very aware of your family and the situation. When you used at a young age, how did you feel? You said it didn't really stick right away.
Well, it didn't really stick, as in like I was addicted, but I knew the feeling of like I was accepted, like these, and even if it was fake, like I don't even know the motive of what the older kids in my life would get out of it by me hanging out with them, but there was something that they got from it. Just being the influence, or like thinking they were cool because they were hanging out with 10-year-old kids, but like at the same time, I get it. Like I get where they're coming from, because like it made them, because they were broken too. You know what I mean?
Right.
So like it was just a good influence on them to just be like, hey, I'm accepted by these guys too, and
Everybody wants to belong to something.
you know,
Right.
That's where, like, in people's society, like with, gangs and everything like that, like, I don't care who you are, if you don't get it from home, you're going to search for it elsewhere. Everybody needs to belong to something and feel like a family,
Very true.
And you know how society's so quick to, well, they're gang members or, anything like that. It's, yeah,
So,
it makes more sense.
right after the marijuana, then what? Like, when were you introduced to harder substance?
when I was about 16, 17, well, actually before that, I had a really good friend of mine and a pregnant girlfriend die in a car accident. Just driving recklessly. I got woke up at about 5 o'clock in the morning, saying that she passed away, and I just had this feeling that I call my little brother, that he was in the same car, and nobody knew who else was in there, and I was like, it's got to be him, it's got to be him, and it turned out to be him. I was a few minutes late getting to the hospital, seeing him, and it just broke me. I remember trying to commit suicide for the first time. Running around with one of my crazy neighbors who was much older than me, because she had mental health issues and drug issues, and she'd let me drive her car and buy me alcohol and just let me party. And I was only 15, so I was taking pills. I was doing all the things that I wanted to do and that I could do because I didn't really have accountability. My mom had the kind of love where it's like, I'm gonna love you and let you come to my house and use here because I don't want you out in the streets, but also I don't want you to hate me. So like I think it was like a confused kind of love too, and I don't blame her for that. Like she did the best she could. So
No.
I mean it just turned out bad. And
Were you ever able to get on a better level with your mom?
yeah, me and my mom are cool. Yeah, we talk a lot. Me and my mom are pretty cool. Our relationship has really gotten a lot better after I stopped using because it didn't matter who I hurt when I was using. Most people had to stay away from me because it didn't, family or not, I didn't love anybody or myself for sure.
Right.
Even if I thought I did, I never showed it. I didn't know how to show it. I just knew that I wanted to get high and I wanted to feel better and just be selfish.
It's interesting because all three of us sitting here have fathers who are involved with alcohol, substance, and things. It's so we all can relate on that level of knowing what that feels like when you have a parent that is doing that and affecting your family because it really does.
Yeah.
Um,
Especially being younger, and especially being younger, my dad like didn't really know any better about how to like protect me, and so I was sexually assaulted by a few older men in my life, and like that really took a toll too, as in like
you were?
yeah, so like I was, and I didn't really feel like I was protected by my family because like it was so easy to like get me in those areas and those situations. So that kind of really messed with my mental health too, as in like I didn't really feel protected at home either. So that really took a toll on my life as well.
Was it by people that you trusted?
So it was
or
somebody
it-
that I was in. It was an older family member of mine that was in my life for a long time, and then also one of my neighbors that was able to convince me to come over and just kind of be there. I mean, everything. He's in prison now, and like certain things came out, and it just was all bad. But it doesn't take away the fact that it ruined the way that I think.
Right.
And that's a big part of it too, is trying to numb that pain or that confusion. It wasn't even necessarily pain; it was confusion of like, why do I feel the way I feel now? And it directs directly back to that kind of thing, with the struggles that I have today, even. So
So it really impacted your mental health.
yeah, for sure,
Right.
for sure.
So when you tried harder substance, what did you prefer? Like where did it start with like your preference?
So it was alcohol. I used to drink all the time, and then it was like medication, like pills, like oxys and
So opioids.
and then those kind of started to scare me. I seen people. I've never seen anybody overdose on like amphetamines or like anything like that. I tried Adderall at a young age for the first time, and like my whole world changed after that. My whole world changed. I felt like I could do anything, not care about anything, and I could talk better. I could work better. I could just move around better. Never had to sleep. My life was just better. I felt like crap all the time, but my life just seemed better. I could think better, and
Was
how
that
old were
from-
you?
Huh?
How old were you? Were you prescribed it?
No, 15, 16. I
Oh,
wasn't
okay.
prescribed then, but being in our small town, we are able to get whatever we wanted, which is weird because I had more money being younger than I do now. I was able to get the
Yeah,
things I needed.
because you
better.
don't have the bills.
Yeah, and like it was just easier to fit in, and like there was no shame either. Like I would ask for whatever I needed, and like I would go to all lengths to get it. Now I have like a reputation, not for anybody else, but for like myself to be like I have morals now and values now, and I don't want to.
I think when you're younger, you can justify by thinking, I'm young. I
Yep.
can
Yeah.
do this.
Yeah.
I can be immature.
Yeah.
I can make bad choices. And then when I'm older, I'll be mature and not
Yep.
do this stuff.
Yeah, and I always tell people now, like younger guys now, so I'm kind of like a youth mentor a little bit, and I kind of tell these young guys, like, listen to your parents, like, listen to the people in your life. Like, that was a big mistake I never was able to grasp until now. It's like, listen to these people because they lived life.
Yeah.
Like, especially when they're 3, 4 times older than you, like, they made it that far. Like, they know what they're doing. They made the same mistake, and you're no different.
Yeah, I agree. I wish I would have listened to my parents much more when I was a kid because they really did. They do. We've talked about this. Like, you get upset when your parents try to stop your fun. You think they're trying to ruin your fun, but they have your best interest in
Yeah.
mind.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's an understatement. And like I've noticed now, being in my mid 30s, that I sound like the older grumpy guy because I always stress to younger kids like take care of your body
Yep.
because you only get one.
Yep.
And I can see a lot of times it just goes in one ear and out the other. It's like they just think they're gonna be young forever. No.
Right. Yeah, it is crazy. So you were feeling that sort of motivation off the opioids or off the Adderall and opioids
off
mixed?
the Adderall and just anything, just not feeling the way I felt. It took all my pain away, and I felt like I had nothing to worry about because I could rely on it. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, oh, I get sad tomorrow. That's all right. I got some pills or I got some weed, and I didn't have accountability, and I could do whatever I wanted. I could hurt whoever I wanted. I could rip off whoever I wanted. I could do whatever I wanted.
So you were doing opiates, Adderall, alcohol, and weed?
Yep.
Is that your...
Yep.
And then, so how long were you doing that before addiction started? Before you realized you're in addiction?
Yeah. So when I was 16, I tried methamphetamine for the first time. That took off. I started sharing it with all my friends, and it just took off. And I heard this saying one time. It's like if you got more drug addicts around, then there's more drugs. And I was like, bet. Like all my friends are about to be high now. We're about to have all the drugs.
Yeah.
And, I spread like wildfire, and I was still young. And I was like, this can't hurt nobody. I was like, we're young, we're kids, and it spiraled into 10 years, man. Like, when I was 17, I tried needles for the first time, and it just spiraled down.
So you were trying to surround yourself with more people that were using to continue to be able to have connections and get as much as possible.
Yeah, I think that's normal though. Like we build networks off that, and it's like it still didn't come down to me being the man or like being top dog. It was more of like I still have friends and I want to fit in, but I know they're hurting too without even saying anything. Like I know you guys are hurting. Like check this out. Like this will take all your pain away.
Right.
And it was just,
subconsciously or yeah.
Yeah, and like I remember specifically telling one of my best friends growing up, I was like, "Hey man, like here, try this. Like you won't have to deal with home anymore." And the first time he hit the pipe with me, I was like, "Yeah, welcome to the rest of your life, bud." And he's like, "Wow." And I still ponder on that, right? Because that was horrible. Like that's horrible to tell somebody. And like I look back on it all the time, and it's like I just pray for forgiveness for that too, because he's still in active addiction. That was like 9 years ago,
Right.
10 years ago, and he's still messing around, still going back to prison. I was like, man, like I just wish he could get it. And it took me a long time to get it too, so like I get it, but
I mean, I'm glad that you've got it and you're moving forward from that.
It's rough.
Yeah, for sure. So what was when your family found out that you were using, what did your mom, if your father was already in that life, but what was it like when your family, like your mom discovered that you were using?
She was scared more than anything. We're anxiety ridden as a whole. Our family's anxiety ridden as a whole, and she just wanted me to feel better. But she didn't know how to help me. Like she would tell me all the time, "Dylan, I'm sorry, but I don't know how to help you." She's like, but she let me come over all the time, and she would cater to me all the time, and it was hard for her to tell me no. And it didn't matter what I did because that was my mom, that was my rock, and it didn't matter what I did because I was her youngest and her baby. And I don't know if she had some some self doubt or whatever was going on with her and me. But I think it was kind of an attempt to like love me different and love me better through my addiction, and really it hurt me because it was enabling, and I just had to separate myself and get on my own. But when they found out, man, they felt horrible, uh, because they felt like they didn't do enough, or that they couldn't help enough, or anything like that. They just wanted me to be better.
Right. So that's interesting. What was your mental health like during that?
Oh man, I didn't. It was absolute garbage. I literally felt like I wanted to die every day, and I felt even worse because I couldn't kill myself, right? And that's.
Have you tried multiple times?
Yeah, so I've spent a lot of time in institutions, in certain places, that threw away the key, right? Locked me up and made sure I was safe for myself and the people around me. But my body's riddled with scars.
Were you a cutter?
Yeah, bad. I have multiple attempts with that. I also have multiple attempts with medication. You know, just didn't want to be around. I tried to take so many drugs that I wouldn't wake up, and it just didn't work.
Have you had any organ issues like in your body from
No.
them taking all these medications, like ODing and?
No, I've actually gotten healthier, which is weird because after I got sober, I had like some kidney issues when I was locked up from all the drugs, but it just fixed itself. It just went away, and I think that's due to the power of prayer, the power of just getting my life right and
Having faith.
just another chance and a second chance. And it's definitely pointed towards faith. It's definitely pointed towards a different purpose and discovering it. And it's kind of cool to look back and be like, man, I thought I was the worst of the worst, and I was in rock bottom, and I never would pull out. But you get something created in you, and it's like a new heart, it's a new purpose, and you look back and you're like, wow, like God is real, God is good. And you can't forget where you come from, though. I mean, I can't sit here and forget where I came from because I can't.
So,
I gotta remember what he pulled me out of.
right.
I gotta remember what he pulled me out of, man.
And during that time, because like I know JJ is like when he went to jail, he was able to adapt. He's someone that can adapt very easily to
Yeah.
things. Like, are you able to do that too? Like, can you
Yeah,
like quickly adapt to a new environment?
Especially to get what I need or what I want, or like if I'm somewhere I don't want to be, but I have to be there, it's really easy for me to just swallow the pill of pride and just be like, yep, this is where I'm at now, and try my best to cope. But I never wanted to be like the most popular. I never wanted to be like the guy. I never wanted to I just wanted to fit in and live my life and have friends and be happy. And it just turned into so much more after that, and it turned into a lot of shame and guilt. But yeah, adaptability is something I'm pretty good at. But now I just want to use it for good stuff. Like I want to be able to learn and
Right.
and push good things onto people, and help. And
I always noticed with jail, it was just getting through that first 30 days. After that, it was just like,
yeah,
I can remember being in jail, and I was actually more. I don't know if you ever had this, where literally it gets to a point where you're more comfortable. As long as you got money on your books and
Yeah.
everything like that, like, dude, it's the routine. It's there's no question that jail saved my life several times.
oh yeah, for sure. I think it's like a timeout for sure that we need. And
I've seen it save a lot of people's lives, but it also, though, it's the criminal background.
Yeah.
It really sucks, man.
Yeah.
It's like a life sentence, the felonies, yeah.
Yeah, and you start getting a hard heart, and you start not liking people because not everybody in there's a saint, and it's just messy. And
Oh
people suck,
God,
and
I've met some of the worst.
Yeah.
Like you actually, that's how I've always thought of it. Is like in jail, you meet. I'd say like, gosh, 85 to 90% of people. They're just people who have had some of the worst. Like I met somebody who, when they were 10 years old, their stepdad, grabbed their arm and shot them up with cocaine. Like,
yeah,
looking back, like that's the most evil thing. Like I just can't imagine.
And now they're an adult and they're in there.
Yep.
I know that's part of it.
we're doing part of the same things because it
The
changes the
system
way you
can
think.
just
Yeah,
beat the shit out of you.
Mhm.
Just like where I think a lot of people, and I've really seen this many times, is where they get so institutionalized. It's like that's their family.
Right.
That's all they have. That's all they know. Like, because it's sad.
a big part of jail though that I learned is that I learned to appreciate little things like having
Yeah.
a soft mattress or some clean clothes, and
Right.
You know, I also
Respect goes a long way
yeah,
too.
respect too, and you learn how to treat people because we're all miserable in there, and you know,
Yep.
a little bit of
There's
joy.
serious consequences
Yeah.
for
Well, and we talk a lot about how much we take things for granted.
yeah.
You know, it's good to learn how to appreciate the little things, and we all, everybody needs to learn to appreciate the little things a lot more in our daily lives. Like we get living, and we really do take things for granted.
For sure, we're way too blessed. Like what? So, some of the people I know right now, they're doing missions trips overseas right now, and you know, over there, like the slums over there is like the worst of the worst. Like they're living
Yeah.
in garbage dumps and they have no food, and you know,
Yeah.
they're fighting over pieces of bread and just all this stuff. Like we come back here and we're way too blessed, man, and we take advantage of it. So, like, what does it take? What does it take for us to realize like we need to take care of the stuff that we got? We need to take care of this place that we got because this is freedom if it ever comes.
Right. So
Right.
you've had the legal consequences.
Yep.
Have you had any other consequences, like health wise, losing friends, family, any stuff like that? Did you OD while using opioids? Were you close to dying it that
Yeah.
way, or?
Yeah. So, February 2023, a week before I got sober, I was on a train in Minneapolis. I just woke up from a shelter. I found some fentanyl on the floor. I haven't used fentanyl in a while.
On
I
the
found
floor?
some fentanyl on the floor, a bag of fentanyl on the floor from the homeless shelter. I got on the train, took
That
one
makes
hit,
sense, so.
took one hit of that, and I woke up in the hospital on life support for 5 days, 6 days. I went to detox for 2 days.
So your tolerance was down.
Yup. It was way down, and I was an avid drug user. Like I was never scared to do drugs. I was never, you know what I mean. Like I was never scared. Like
Well, and that's how it is an active addiction.
Yeah.
You'll stop for a few days, but as soon as you'll jump right back in.
yeah, and even then, like, and fentanyl is so unpredictable. Like fentanyl is killing, you know, 30, 40-year drug addicts because of the inconsistency with the potency and just
Right.
all the things that come with that, the way it's
Yeah.
made, and people don't care, man. Like. Whatever, as long as I get this little $5, I don't care if it's your life at risk. I need this money for no reason, and like that's how it was, man. And I took one hit of that fentanyl, and I woke up on life support. Couldn't breathe. I was on a breathing tube, and you know that scared me. That was the first time in my life my addiction actually scared me. Besides like the psychosis that I couldn't figure out, but like that was the physical death that I needed. And that
You
was
actually died?
yeah. So I stopped breathing for like 15, 16 minutes, they said, and it
Were
was.
you in a chemically induced coma or?
I'm not sure. I didn't really
Okay.
get all the information. I just know that I took a hit of fentanyl at Nicollet Mall, and I woke up at East Bank Stadium. It's about a 15-minute train ride. The transit police pulled me off, and I was in an ambulance, and the only thing they had for my information was a card saying that I was on Vivitrol, so an opiate blocker, and the fentanyl. It didn't block the fentanyl. I was taking Vivitrol, trying to quit, and the fentanyl didn't block it.
Fentanyl seems to overpower
I think
things.
that Xanlazine
Yeah.
shit that they're putting
Xylazine?
into, yeah, they're putting yeah, it's
Yeah.
getting worse.
They
Yeah.
call it Trank or something.
Well, it's a blood pressure medicine.
Yep.
But it's like even stronger, and it's completely resistant to Narcan.
It's also a sedative, so it's just dangerous.
Yeah. Every time I keep reading about it, it makes me just sick.
Right.
Yeah.
So, I'm curious. When you woke up in the hospital when you overdosed, was this was after you were suicidal? Like this made you realize you don't want to die?
Yeah, so I've seen spiritual stuff before in my life, and like I've seen you know, I believe I've talked to God. I believe that I've seen the other side of certain things and like spiritual aspect of life, and when that happened I seen nothing. It was dark and it was black and it scared me. Like I don't want to live like that. I don't want to be separated like that. I don't it just scared me. Like there's got to be more. There's got to be more than that darkness. And it's like if that's all there is, then I'm gonna stop living in darkness now because this is all the time I got left to live in the light. And then you know I'm in Bible college and going to Bible college and learning about all the spiritual aspects about how to love people and just you know this world is beautiful. This is a beautiful world, man. And learning about how to see the beauty in it and to chase away the darkness, and you know we can all have light while we're here, and that's what really changed my life is that happening and realizing there's people that love me and that I can love too, you know. So
Bro, this book right here, The
Four
Four Agreements.
Let's go.
Have you seen
That's a
it?
good
Have you
book.
read it?
I have. That's
This
a good
book is
book.
awesome. That's what it
Yeah.
talks about is you can be in heaven or hell every day. It's
Yeah.
your choice.
Yeah. It's spiritual warfare.
The other day, I was saying like, God, dude, this was a bad day or whatever, and you're like, yeah, but it's a beautiful day for somebody else, though. It could,
Mhm.
That's
yeah.
good.
Yep.
That's good. And you might be the only source of joy that somebody sees today. I remember being in high school and there was this girl that really didn't like being around people. I think she either had a rough childhood. I don't really know what was going on in her life, but I remember that we were walking out of the school one day and she dropped all of her books and one of us helped her. I don't remember who helped her clean it up, but somebody helped her clean up all her books and the next day she like went up to them and she's like, "Thank you so much for showing me love." She's like, "I was going to kill myself yesterday, but you were the only source of happiness that I had that day and it made me realize that somebody cares about me."
Who did that now?
It was in high school. There was this girl when we were in high school that like she was totally just separated and isolated from everybody in our school, and somebody just helped her clean up her books as she dropped getting on the bus.
See, because I remember back in the '90s hearing about this story where this guy, he was picked on like consistently, like really picked on, like constantly, and he completely had a full plan. Like he had everything. He was gonna kill himself, and um, he went to the school to clean out his locker because he didn't want to. He knew his mom and dad would be really sad cleaning out his locker.
Wow.
And as he had all those books, because he wasn't planning on like doing it, like when you
Mhm.
in the locker you have like all your stuff for the whole year.
Yeah.
So he had like all these books and everything, and on his walk home, he dropped them all, and somebody just saw that and helped,
That's crazy.
and that guy decided to not commit suicide. And I never forgot that story when I was a kid. So that's really cool.
Yeah, it's wild that actually happens more than we think. It's
Just simple. Like I just think it's sad that simple acts, like, and I mean like the most simple acts of kindness nowadays. It seems like
Well, some people don't get a lot of kindness in
Right.
their days. You know,
No.
if you don't have family support, if you don't have a lot of like friends that actually support and trust you or you can trust, you're not going to have a lot of that. A lot of people don't. Like, even like I was saying the other day, like, you need somebody to talk to about your troubles and your negative stuff, but you also need people to share your positive things with and to be excited with.
Yeah.
You know, you need
'Cause
both of that.
we live in a day and age, honestly, where like information, like uh, there's just people that are just waiting to hear like any information about you.
Mhm.
Just it's almost like they're collecting data
Yeah.
consistently.
Yeah.
And I mean, like it's just crazy gossip. What it talks about how gossip in the Bible is. That's a real thing. That's a
Yes.
spiritual thing.
So the last book of the Bible is Revelation, and it says that they overcame by the blood of the Lamb and the word of their testimony. So Jesus dying for us, and also our stories. And a lot of people ask me like, what happened, and I tell them my testimony. I tell them about my life, and they're like, okay, well, what changed? And I was like, Jesus, love. It's all about love, and that kind of opens the door too for spiritual aspect or just people changing their life. When you come from darkness and you come from a broken world, it doesn't make sense that you're happy. It doesn't make sense that you're doing well. It doesn't make sense that you want to
Right.
support people. And they're like, well, what's the secret? And I was like, well, it's nothing to do with me, but I know a guy, and it teaches a lot about that in the Bible. And, nowadays people are so obsessed with like doing certain things or like following rules. And it's like, just love people. People suck. We love them anyways. And that's how the world changes. That's the only way to change the world. People suck. We love them anyway.
I was
Right.
just having this conversation with a friend. Yeah, like how it's just certain things, like like you keep, like I'll take to my grave secrets, because that's who I am. Like I just loyalty. Like blood don't make you family. Loyalty does, yeah.
For sure.
And that's a lot of people just don't understand that.
Mm-hmm.
And I've seen that too, where it's like people are envious of like me. I've seen that too because I have people that will, just as I die for them, they die for me, And I just think we do live in a spiritual battle today.
Yeah. So we're built. I firmly believe we're built for connection, and
Mm-hmm.
especially when you go, like, so in jail, for example, like, I spent a lot of time in the hole, and when I was in the hole, like, I lost my mind. I had nobody to talk to. I, like, I came
Yep.
out worse from the hole than I went in, and it's because I didn't have any stimulation, or, like, I wasn't able to talk to nobody, or, like, be edified, or even, like, edify, or, and emotions are important, even if they're sad emotions, they're important, man. It makes you feel alive, it makes you feel real, and, being separated is the ultimate goal to prevent
The
being
opposite of
separated.
addiction.
Right. I'm sure
is
we've all
connection.
heard the connection's the opposite of
Yep.
addiction.
Yep.
So I mean, that's definitely.
Yeah, it's definitely true.
Yeah.
In fact, there's a funny story with that. I was on the phone with somebody when I was withdrawing off, methadone, and when I found that out, I was trying to say that to somebody, and I had never, like, just trying to explain that the opposite of addiction, like, that crying, like when you can't even breathe. Yeah, like that.
Yeah.
And I hadn't done that in, I mean, I
Weeping.
I don't even know, 12, 13, 14. I don't even know. Since I was a child, maybe I had not cried, and that's what comes with addiction, is like all of those, every single emotion that we are trying, or that we feel good, even good emotions, we want numbed. And I always say it's like it's like when you put a kink in a hose.
Yeah.
Like either one or two things gonna happen. Either that pressure's gonna build and you're gonna have to let it out, or it's gonna explode. Like, yeah, yeah, yeah. I just sobbed like a baby. It took me like 10 minutes to explain the opposite of addiction is connection. Yeah,
Right.
that is powerful though, because
runs out and you want something else, just let me know.
Okay. Okay. And the crazy part about that is, like, it's because you started hearing the truth about things, and I learned in my life of addiction, and even now in my school and in my treatment and stuff, is like the truth is meant to hurt you. If it doesn't break you, it's probably not true, because we're living a life of lie. We're living a life of deception, and we're lying to ourselves. But when you start hearing truth, and you're like, wow, like that's real, you start feeling shameful or even resentment or anything because of the way you've been living. For me, it had to break me down, like the truth of who I was in Christ, and the truth of who I was for my family, and being a son and a dad and an uncle, and it broke me down. It's like these are true things, and it made me sad that I was never able to, like, step into that my whole life. So the truth broke me, and it also was able to build me up. When we have hard hearts, they're easily shattered, but when we have soft hearts, they're moldable, and they're able to be molded and take things and use it for advice and just to build us up. So that's a big lesson I learned too, was about learning the truth, and being able to cry like that is a beautiful thing.
yeah,
It's a beautiful thing.
and that's where like I've said this countless times. As men, we're taught from a young age that is not what we're supposed to do, and that's why I mean, male suicide rates are like just staggeringly high.
Well, I've been talking about it for a while now, especially with you, about how we have to be honest with ourselves.
Yeah.
Like being in school for substance abuse counseling, they push that on you. Like you have to know who you are and be honest with who you are with yourself before you can go and help other people professionally.
Yeah.
If you're lying to yourself, you're going to let other people get away with stuff too. And you can't do that.
Yeah, definitely.
You have to
not.
be held accountable and hold accountable.
Yeah. And it's tough too, because it's like, you gotta, at least with my counselor, she's just, because I've had so much trauma in my life, you kind of got to start small with it, like one thing at a time.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, you're just going to cram everything together, and you know how people are. People are like, well, just get over it.
Right.
It's like,
of course,
all that shit, I do not say anything like that.
It's not that easy though.
In this one, it's like people don't even realize what they're doing. It's this one-upping thing, like, dude, well, I just went through this, so it's just like a constant competition. It's like, well, that's not where I was going with that. So, yeah.
Yeah, and a big part of it is like, oh, you're addicted to drugs, or you're addicted to pain, you're addicted to codependency, just say no, just stop it. And you're like, what do you mean just stop? Like,
I think if we could
Like I would have been. You think I love being miserable? Like you
Right.
think I
Right.
like struggle? Like I mean, there's peace in the struggle when you know it's for something good or the end
Yeah,
result is good.
and
That's
that-
different though.
It's different though.
There's
But
different kinds of struggle.
yeah,
Yep.
struggling in fellowship is peaceful, but misery with miserable people is
Misery
miserable.
loves company.
Misery
It
loves company.
thrives. Yep.
But it's got to be the company of the miserable because you know your light spreads when you're a light to people. You glow and it just spreads like
Right.
wildfire, man.
And that's where I've kind of had to. Yeah.
So how long did your addiction last then? So you're using meth and opioids as your drugs of choice.
Yeah, for about 10 years, 11 years. From about 15 to about 26, 27.
So how did you find recovery? How did you get yourself into recovery?
I've been to treatment, I've been to rehab, I've been to about a dozen different programs from
Like
15
inpatient and outpatient?
outpatient, psych wards, hospitals, counseling, just
You've
endless.
done
Jails,
methadone.
institutions, and
Suboxone. Never did methadone. I did
Okay.
Suboxone. I heard about Minnesota Adult Teen Challenge a few years ago. One of my best friends who was really into like cooking drugs and just all this crazy stuff. He told me about Teen Challenge and he said it was the best year of my life. What they do is they take you out of your comfort zone. They take you away from family, out of the community, and they put you in a place where they
like
show you
Geneva.
love. They show you love and they show you what it's like to be a man, what it's like to support your family, what it's like to be able to have emotions. And I was like, okay, so I put it in the back of my head. I was like, that sounds pretty good. Like, but I wasn't ready to quit. I wasn't ready to surrender. I wasn't ready to stop doing what I was doing because it was about me.
Right.
I kept going to treatment to satisfy the courts. I kept going to treatment to satisfy my PO, to satisfy my parents. It was never about me.
So your early recovery was about satisfying others.
Yep. Yeah, because I didn't want to. I knew I didn't have much, but what I did have, I didn't want to lose. I wanted to be able to do whatever I wanted, whenever I wanted, plus still have the things that I loved,
Yeah.
the beautiful things that I had that I wanted. It was selfish.
So were you more pushed into recovery by the courts, or was it a choice?
I was pushed into recovery at the first 10 times, first 12 times. And then I was homeless, ended up in Minnesota, and I was like, look, I'm done. I'm done going back. I'm done being revoked. I'm on probation now. Like,
God, dude, that revoke, dude, that
Yeah.
sends back so many bad memories.
It's
I
scary.
went through that
It's
process so
scary.
many times that I'm traumatized by it.
for sure. And it's
You
like,
have to sit in jail for at least 4 months.
Yeah, I sat
and
in jail.
You don't know.
I sat in jail for 14 and a half months waiting to get revoked on my felony paper, got released, and still did a year. Like, it was just ridiculous. And just things like that where it's like you never know, things change. And that was the hardest part about it.
Lawyers.
And were you sitting because of drugs?
I was sitting because of the things I did surrounded by drugs. Like
Right.
I would get messed up on drugs and make bad decisions.
Were you stealing?
stealing, just running my mouth, disorderly conduct, running from cops, drinking a lot, just all the things that would comfort me. You
Right.
know what I mean? Because I didn't want to live. I didn't like who I was. I didn't like.
It is
didn't like
funny
anything.
how acting out that way can actually be a comfort. I remember being 16, 17 in my crazy aggression time. That was it. Part of it was a comfort. I was getting everything out. I was doing what I wanted. I was controlling my narrative, my life the way I wanted to,
Yep.
even though it wasn't healthy.
I'm
Yep.
in control.
And that's where, like, yeah. Didn't you say, like, just that little time in jail that really opened up your eyes?
Oh man, I only sat 5 days in my life, and it was a huge eye opener for me. Like I could not handle it.
It took me losing 3 years of my freedom. Like, I would literally, like, do, like, 6 months here, 9 months, sometimes, like, 3 months, but, like, all together it was, like, a little
So
over
you
3
sat
years.
3 years. How long did you
All
sit?
together.
Right.
Not straight.
All
though.
together.
I have about 5 years total.
So you guys both have really had a lot of time. Between you, you have 8 years of lost
Yeah.
time.
Yep.
That's a lot of time
It's
to
a lot
lose.
of time.
But like I said, actually, this is, except for the very end, it was the second to last time I was ever in jail. The drugs were getting so bad in this area.
It's crazy how much this is a flood town.
They
compared
don't,
to the
and
cities,
they
too.
don't.
Eau Claire?
Yeah.
That's
don't-
because everything runs from the interstate.
Both of them, they both intersect right here, and that's wild.
And they don't like. They still like to keep that out of the news. like how bad the crime has
Yeah.
gotten.
So-
like I grew up in this town. This town has gone. I mean, I actually I looked it up. From like independent resources, like the crime rate has gone up like almost like 900%.
Yeah. Well, it's a major drug trafficking. So I did a report in school on drug trafficking from Illinois to the cities.
Mm-hmm.
And if you follow the interstate from, I can't remember, it's right down below as you're like into Illinois. You follow the interstate up. The overdoses are heavy all along the interstate exits. Madison, Toma,
Hudson.
Black River,
Winona.
Eau Claire, and then from Eau Claire to the cities, there's like a blank space. So Eau Claire's the last stop on the ride to the cities. But from here down to Illinois, a lot of the cities on the exits are big overdose spots. So these are all major drug run spots here.
And this is now Eau Claire is the 7th biggest city in Wisconsin.
Yeah, it's growing.
I mean the 7th biggest city in Wisconsin. That's pretty fast. And under 5 years, they managed to do that. That's crazy.
So when you were pushed into recovery, when you were pushed into recovery by the court or whatever, did you have a good support system at that time, or were you just mostly on your own?
Mostly on my own. So even like my probation, they say they're there to help you, but it was more like do this or you're going to prison. Do
or
this.
Just always tell the truth.
Always tell the truth.
Yeah, that really works out.
I learned about honesty now, which is like it's always better. Especially if you do something wrong, like, hey, I was honest with you this time and I'm being honest now. So if you're honest about getting in trouble, when it does come down to the point that you didn't do anything and you're honest with it, they believe you.
Right.
You didn't do anything, but you also have to confess sometimes.
Mm.
Oh, yeah.
And I learned that, but I used to be like that too, where it's like tell
with
the
the
truth.
police,
It's like,
though,
absolutely
it's a totally different ballgame.
Oh, for sure. I agree.
Yeah, personal information, like, it's, yeah.
That's how I was in school too, though. I told the truth in school, and when I didn't do anything, they believed me.
Yeah.
They're like, "Well, David don't usually lie to us about stuff.
Yeah.
So if he says he didn't, most likely he didn't." And then they would ask other people, and they're like, "No, David wasn't there." So I was like, "Yeah, he didn't do it."
It's
Being labeled as an honest person is not a bad thing at all.
Not at all.
no, in being labeled as a caring person does not make you weak. Like, there's so
Right,
many
of
things
course.
society just like, it's just
Mm-hmm.
it's crazy to, like how people, and you kind of got to check them sometimes. It's just like the way that they're talking about somebody. It's just like what they're doing right now is because they're unhappy.
Yep.
Yeah.
Like,
For
and I
sure.
mean, and it's just like, do you listen to yourself? Like, you're sitting there just bashing a drug addict when you are a drug addict yourself. That was always a
Right.
blast. I'm sure
That's
you
actually-
remember that.
Yeah, it's actually interesting because I'd be like, yeah, I smoke meth. I was like, but at least I'm not doing heroin, bro.
Right,
At least
right.
At least I'm not nodding out. Like you know what I mean? I'm on point 24/7. And then I
Mm-hmm.
found heroin and I was like, I get it.
Yep.
'Cause addiction is addiction. You know what I mean?
See, actually, for me, it was the complete opposite. I never understood anybody that, I remember I used to really judge people that would do like meth or anything like that because but then, when I tried that, it's actually, like I've said before, when painkillers saved me from, I know I would have killed myself with alcohol. There's no question. But when I started taking painkillers, my justification was, at least I'm not snorting cocaine or smoking crack. So this ain't that bad. And it wasn't even like 6 months later, I had tried both of those.
Yeah, we've been talking recently about how people try to justify their use as better than other use. Like, at least it's not this or that. Well, it's
Yeah.
all
Yeah.
still substance
Yeah.
abuse. Like,
It
you're
is.
still altering your mind and changing that chemical
And
balance.
pot, people want to argue about how innocent it is. Not today.
Not the high potency
No,
marijuana.
the shit's.
I'm
they
scared
are,
to smoke weed, dude. If I
Yeah.
take one hit, I'm freaking out. Especially going back to the place I gotta go back to. Like if I were to.
Do you get like that paranoid, like
Oh, absolutely.
hard
like,
on yourself?
Absolutely, and I'll go straight to psychosis real quick. Like, just to know, like I know I'm not supposed to be doing this, even weed, and it's so potent.
Yeah.
Now, like, It's wild.
So, are you in any sort of recovery program now?
So I'm in Minnesota Adult Teen Challenge, TCLI. It's a Teen Challenge Leadership Institute. So in Minnesota, they have multiple campuses of people who graduated the long-term program. It's a 13-month program. It's faith-based. They teach you about Jesus, and they teach you about living life. And the best part about it is there's no newspapers, there's no news, there's like no TV really. You don't get your phone, you don't really talk to family. You get some visits, but it's mainly just working on yourself.
Right.
Sounds exactly what an addict needs.
Yeah, living with a bunch of knuckleheads, man, and you learn to cope and self-care and
And it's not only for teens though.
Right.
That's
Oh,
the
right,
funny
for
thing.
sure, yeah.
Yep.
Because
So, do you have a good support system now?
I have an amazing support system, so I got a couple leadership roles of where I'm at now, and I'm really cool with the leadership that I have in my life, my pastor and stuff. I work at his church, and I'm just learning, and like even outside family right now too is like I came to town this weekend, and they're all like, let's hang out, and it used to be like, don't even come here because we don't want anything to do with what you got going on, like
Right.
like now I can have full on conversations with my nieces and nephews, but there's 21 of them, nieces and nephews. That's wild.
That is a
me.
lot,
That's
man.
a lot.
Wow.
So there's 21 of them little rascals running around, and just being a solid support for them too is my goal. So I mean, like I said, I don't want to be the bad example. It's generational curses. It's breaking that now, but being the support that I needed right now is important to me. I got this mentor that works at one of the youth campuses that we have, and he calls me sometimes, and he's like, when you were these guys' age, man, like what did you need? What would help these guys? And that's really cool for me to be able to give back, because it's like I just need somebody like you, man. Like I need somebody who's going to go out of their way and take time out of their day to like care and ask questions like this and
To show support.
yeah, to show love, man. And that really changed the way that I see people in the world. That it really solidifies the fact that there is love.
Yeah.
Sometimes you got to look for it, but if you create the atmosphere of love, then you ain't got to go far to find it.
Yeah. So, how are you dealing with triggers and cravings now?
My biggest trigger. So like I live in South Minneapolis. I live right on the corner of Chicago and Franklin. It's dubbed one of the most dangerous corners in the country.
it's very
It's bad, but see, we get a lot of
Murderapolis. now.
Murderapolis. Yeah, I live right next to a place called Murder Mart. In the last 6 months, there's probably been at least 12 shootings, and
Right where you live?
right outside my house at the park right
Jeez,
there.
man.
It's rough.
There's a huge reason why too. Like it's just getting worse.
So, are you being challenged with your recovery?
So
Like,
super
are you...
challenged, but we have a team. We have a team of people who are committed to changing where we live, and multiple outreaches a week. We have prayer team. We have everything that we can do going on to try to change it. We're spreading food and love and clothes and prayer and trying to bring people into our doors and just doing things that are really gonna impact the community as a whole and not just.
So, do you live in a...
So I live in a campus.
Okay.
So I'm Minnesota School of Ministry. I'm learning basically how to be an ordained minister.
Okay.
It's going to be about a 2-year process, but I'm going to classes for that as well, as long as my other college. But yeah, we're just learning how to like
So, you're going to software school and...
Bible college.
That's crazy. So, how is your mental health now that you're in recovery?
Also,
I mean, you have this stuff going on outside,
Yeah.
But how are you getting through it?
I learned to like reevaluate, reassess, reframe my thought patterns with looking at things, and it's like this world. It's not saying this world sucks; it's saying this world needs help. So it's like reframing in that aspect, but it's also.
Man, dude, that could not be said any better.
Yeah, making appointments with mental health, and just meeting with people regularly, serving, helping other people. It really gives me a peace of mind and a sound mind, and keeps changing my heart for the better. I'm also not on any medication. So when I was in the long-term program last April, a few months before I graduated, so about 6 months in, no, actually it was about 4 months in, I was on Suboxone and I quit cold turkey. I was sick as a dog for about 5 days, 6 days.
What dose were you on?
So I started out at 24 when I got in the program, so at 3 strips a day, and then I got down to 1 8 milligram strip a day, and I just stopped taking it. They're like, you need to wean off, and I was like, well, to be honest with you, I know people who have been taking Suboxone at 2 milligrams, just a little tiny piece of Suboxone for about 5 years, and they have no intention of quitting because it's a comfort medication. I was like, I'm not living like that. I went to all my chaplains, all my counselors, and I was like, this is going to be tough. I was like, I don't know what to do. Like, I'm scared to stop this. I was like, I think I need it. And then one day I just stopped taking it. I was sick for about 5 days. I didn't sleep for about a month after that. But I mean, it's all my classes. I mean, it's all the support meetings and everything, and it was the best decision I ever made.
That's good.
So I had more withdrawals off the medicine to help me off with withdrawals than I ever did off drugs.
Yeah, that's how a lot of
It's
it's been for a
designed-
lot of us. Yeah,
It's designed, yep.
it's
to do
really
that
crazy.
shit,
So
yeah.
with that being said, how has your view of addiction changed now that you're in recovery?
It doesn't discriminate for sure. So I've had people in my life where they had, I guess, quote unquote, perfect lives where they were with their families, with their kids, never really had issues, go to church, was family men, family women, all this stuff, and they still struggle with addiction. They're still in the same spot I was in, and it was like 20-year long of addiction, and so it just goes to show that you could have a perfect life and still struggle.
Right. People can come from the same the same situations and go two completely different directions.
Yep.
So
Yeah.
whether you come from the same thing or different places, we can all end up in all sorts of different ways.
Yeah.
That's the bottom line is drugs do not discriminate.
Not
Right,
at all. Not
yeah.
at all. And that's what we need to make awareness of, I think, is just realizing that it doesn't matter who you are, who your parents are, how you spend your life. Like, drugs are real. Drugs are around, and it's not going to stop for anybody. The only way to stop it is if we put a stop. We just got to be the difference, as in if you're running at 100 mile an hour towards hell, don't you want somebody to trip you up? Don't you want somebody to change your life? And
Yeah.
before it's too late, because people say, "Oh, hell is not that bad," but like really, when you think about it, it's like imagine spending your whole lifetime. It takes a long time to spend a lifetime, but imagine doing that 1,000,000 times and still not making a fraction of your suffering, still not making even a speck into your misery.
Yeah.
So like we just got to be fueled. For me, my advice would be just to be fueled by the future. To reject being passive. Things of that nature that stop sitting back and like watching the world crumble and be the difference you want to see in the world. And that's always been my motto, is to just be the change.
So how are you dealing with social situations? Like, are you around anybody now that's using, or are you surrounding yourself with positive non-using people?
So I live in a strictly drug-free facility, nicotine-free facility.
Nicotine and everything.
Nicotine-free everything. The only thing that we're allowed is like non-narcotic medication for mental health, and that really, really helps. But also even now, like I can be around people who use a little bit, but I just have to make boundaries known. Like, hey, I'm not about that. I'm not about that life. Like,
what is the
about that
non?
life.
Would that be like Vivitrol and things like that, or
I think Vivitrol, but we don't do Suboxone.
right? Nothing with any
Vivitrol is
opioid.
non-opiate though.
Right.
So
That's what I'm saying.
So we don't do nothing like that. Like,
Right.
Even when we go to like, so like if I broke my leg, I don't even. I'm like, you better have some really good ibuprofen, man, because and like natural stuff is better anyway. Like if I run
the
marathons
max.
and I run. I'm an avid runner now, and just stuff like that. Like I'm training for marathons, and
Your body feels good enough. You don't like.
yeah, it feels really good. It took a long time to get there. And my personal trainer says because you put your body through so much trauma and like malnutrition, it's gonna take a while to get there. But a year of training got me to the point where, I ran my first half marathon a few weeks ago, and I crushed my goal. Like it was super cool.
It's awesome.
And I got my first W the other weekend in a 5K, and just stuff like that. Like it's
won?
I won it. I got a.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, so that's cool to like be in that aspect.
You're
But
chasing all of that just like you were the drugs. That's awesome.
yeah,
But
and
it's positive.
Yeah, and it's good for me too. But it's like and handling the pain from that is like ice and a little bit of ibuprofen, but like water and like honey and tea and just getting nutrients back, and
it's all natural.
Your body heals
stuff.
by itself, and it's meant to go through a little bit of impact to like train, but
Right.
you know what I mean. So like these medications and stuff, like it's not only killing us, but it's killing our friends and our family. And drugs aren't cool anymore. They're just not like
Fuck no.
drugs just aren't cool anymore, and that's
I hate
yeah.
We just kind of got into it yesterday when I kept just bringing up the holistic stuff.
Yeah.
I am but yeah.
It is what it is, though. I have people with the holistic stuff coming from all directions.
I know.
Right
That's
now,
why I
so
was
it's-
just laughing about it.
I just think we need to be careful when we idolize.
Timing, yeah.
Yeah, if we idolize physical health, then we're neglecting mental health, and if we idolize spiritual health, we're neglecting everything else. And it's just life is about balance, man. And
So what are you doing to stay focused? Is that like running and like what do you have going on daily?
yeah, so I run a couple I don't run. I assist lead in a couple groups at school, trying to get people, helping out. I work a lot. Right now, I'm in a gig where I get to work at all the home games for the Vikings, which is really
Nice.
cool. I'm in there serving food and just,
It's a really cool stadium.
yeah, it's really cool. We're in the executive club, just working our butts off over there, and just stuff like that. Just giving back. I remember one day I was doing outreach. Just trying to reach the community with food and like little goodie bags of hygiene and just prayer and stuff and trying to get people to get help. And I remember going to this really dangerous park in Minneapolis, and they're like, "Hey, well, you guys are over here, you guys are safe, but don't go over there because that's where people are ODing." And I'm like, "Okay, well, where's the worst spot?" And they said over there, and I said, "All right, that's where I'm going."
Right.
So I'm able to just do that and step out, and it's a lot easier for me to be stronger for my brother than it is for me to be stronger for myself, and that's where accountability, like you were saying, is so important. So I surround myself with people who got my back, and then I can have their back. And I'm learning to just love myself too, to be accountable to myself too. So
Right, and you're able to stand strong in them situations when you're around that, and like try to show support to others.
yeah, and yeah, so especially like just even little things like small permissions, small compromises. Like we're not allowed to have nicotine. We're not allowed to have all these certain things, and when we're out in public and people are like, "Hey, look at this vape," and I'm like, "Don't be dumb."
Right.
Bro. Like you're gonna throw your whole life away over a hit of nicotine. Like
You
even
stop nicotine too, right?
I every once in a while do those Zen things.
Yeah.
That they just got the little
Yeah.
3 milligrams, like
So you're still a little bit.
here and there, and it's
Okay.
funny. Like it's more of an oral fixation here and there, but yeah.
yeah, that's really cool. I found out that nicotine was like one of the hardest.
Oh, it.
Yeah.
It's so like innocent.
And you can get
It's
it.
not though, really.
But that's like the stigma. Is like it's so like, oh, you're just smoking cigarette. Like
It's just because it doesn't get you high like other
Right.
stuff.
I was going through 2 tins of chew every other day at my peak when I was on
It's a lot of
methadone.
chew.
And when I couldn't
lot of
find
chew,
my
dude.
my tin, dude, I was flipping the couch and flipping tables till I found it. And yeah, then if I couldn't find it, I'd have to go. And that ain't cheap either, man.
Right. Oh no, they're like $8, $9, $10 a tin.
yeah,
Yeah.
Cigarettes.
that's wild.
So what advice do you have for people that are in active addiction and need to make a change?
It's not. This isn't your life. It doesn't have to be. This isn't. You don't have to live like that. You don't have to live in bondage. We had this. I mean, it's kind of harsh to say, but we had this little message done to us one time where a dude pulled out his pocket and he said, "You ever been to prison?" He's like, "You're lit." He's like, "You're hanging on to the devil's pocket." So just remember what you got. Look at what you have, and life is better, and we're worth more than the best things that ever happened to us. So like you think of all the
Right.
memories, and you're like, I can have more. I can have abundant. And Jesus said it the best. He said he promised that we're going to have struggles in this world, and we will, but it's always overcome it because he did. And when we stick to the plan and we stick to the things that we know are good, only good things can happen. And you have to be willing to suffer for those things. And
Right.
No.
You have to be willing to sacrifice.
yeah, and I can't like stress it enough where it's like find something in your life worth living for. It's also worth dying for. And mine is just to strengthen the kingdom and help people and to be there for my nieces and nephews and my daughter. I got a 9-year-old daughter, and I'm fighting real hard to be able to get back in her life and be consistent. But I got to be a man first,
Right.
and I got to solve my issues first and stop living in stress and shame. And and a big part of it is looking at the people like, man, I'm shameful. I don't like my life. But like really, when you look at other people who are judging you, they're also shameful and they
Right,
also
yeah.
are struggling and they
Yeah.
also have all these things going on. So it's like just live in that and just participate in that and be the light that somebody needs. And you might be the only person that sheds that light on somebody else's life. You might be the only one that they hear Jesus from today. Or they might be the only one that hears spiritual things from today. And that's what it's about. And if you can save one life, then you've already won. So
Right. Well, I gotta say, man, I've known you a long time, and you are in a place of accountability, and I can tell that you definitely are wanting to do better
Yeah.
and have much more out of life than you did before. That's awesome, man. Like,
yeah.
And I just met you this morning,
Yeah.
and I could not.
like I'm happy to see you doing
Yeah.
good,
Any
man.
more,
For
man.
real.
That's-
It's crazy to think about where we come from.
Speechless,
And,
man, with how awesome
yeah.
that story is.
Yeah, even with you, David, like kind of, back when I was younger, like, the people that we might have rocked with or whatever, and all the stuff that we went through now, it's like looking now, even at you, it's like, man, so, some people just hit that trail running, and it's like when you find a way to change, and you just look at the damage that you might have caused, or, you just don't want to do it anymore. You know, it's
Mhm.
like I'm proud of you too, man. Just sitting here, like this is crazy to me, and you know, it's really cool to just be part of it, and I appreciate it, man. I appreciate
Of
letting me come
course,
down.
and I appreciate you coming here.
Yeah, dude, for sure, it's pretty cool. Yeah, I just can't wait for what the future holds, and for the first time in my life, I'm excited for the future.
Right.
It's just a lot of
right.
work still. It doesn't stop here. It doesn't end here. There's a really cool passage about talking about rest, and it's like you must work hard now because you know every day, every week has its day of rest, right? But you must work hard and earn your rest. But you will
Yeah.
get it. You will get
Right.
it. Don't take your rest too prematurely, or you're gonna regret it. Because then there's a lot more work to be done after that.
That's
Yeah.
where you gotta understand eventually.
Yeah.
You get the shit done, and eventually you'll get that
It's like
time.
retirement. It's like life retirement, you know. And
Right.
Yeah.
JJ, do you have any advice for people that are using?
Yeah, just especially if you're, experimenting, starting, it's not ever gonna turn out well. I promise you that. Uh, just reach out, you know. There is people that care.
Yeah, if you feel alone,
Yep.
don't just go down a dark path because you feel alone.
Call somebody. Yep.
Yeah.
Because there is somebody, like, you know.
Mhm.
It's like I believe it actually says in the Bible too. Is when you save a life, you got to take responsibility for it too.
Yeah, that's pretty accurate.
Yeah, that's so truly how I believe it. And someone's calling you, and it's happened to me many times where several people have called me because they wanted to,
Yeah.
and I begged them in every single which way or form, and
Mhm.
it's like if you save somebody's life, you gotta be there for them.
Right. And
Like you can't just say it that and then actions speak louder than
oh,
words.
for sure.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. Addiction is a challenge, and we do all come from very different places, And I feel like it's important that we don't judge each other, that we do things to try to
Mhm.
support and lift each other up and try to get each other through these moments
Yep.
because we all have positive things that we can do in life. Just because you're in a rough spot, you don't have to stay there.
Yeah.
You take accountability and you have to be willing to sacrifice and put in the work, but you're going to overcome if you want to.
Mm-hmm.
I get like you were pushed into it, you said, but now look at you.
Yeah.
You took initiative once you were in it to realize that you have a better future now that you are in this.
Yeah.
So that's awesome.
Yeah, and a big part about it is like love is an action word. It's not just it's the
Yes.
most abused thing in the world. It's like I love you. Like it's manipulating, but it's
Yeah.
an action word. Love does and you can't just doing that now. So like stop abusing love and
Right.
just
Mhm.
love somebody, like actually love somebody. And if you want to know about it, read the Bible.
And love yourself too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you love yourself, things are a lot different too.
That's actually the hardest part about recovery, at least for myself, is
We judge ourselves so hard sometimes we forget to actually love ourselves. I
Yeah.
know you do it.
Oh,
I
yeah.
see you do it a lot, and I
Yup.
try to tell you not to because you gotta not be so hard on yourself.
Yup.
Is there anything else you want to add today, Dylan?
No, it's just I just want to encourage, especially like the young guys out there, and
You're 28. You're still pretty young.
Yeah.
For the youth, yeah.
when I was in my early teens and I faced trauma, it's like talk about those things, find coping skills now, and that's one thing I didn't have was coping skills and learning how to self-soothe and and self-talk, man. Like
Mm-hmm.
life is gonna get better. It will. It can't stay. If life's not good, it's because God's not done. And that's the thing is don't cut yourself short and don't trade your soul for silver and gold because it's worthless. So just realize that
Right.
you got a purpose in this world and things will get better. It
For
has
sure.
to. It has to. It can't stay
sure.
bad forever. So
It's awesome.
yeah.
The devil will always attack those who are, there's a
Mhm.
reason why,
It's the whole idle
He
hands
starts
thing.
young. He starts young, man.
Yep. It's kind of like people who are gonna rob a house are not gonna rob a house that's empty.
Right. And yeah, exactly. And it's like the society too. It's like find your own belief system, find the things that you think are right and you know, don't just follow what, like, the school system and all this stuff. Like, don't just follow what the news say, politics. Like, do your research, read your own books, live your own life. Like, follow the things that, if it doesn't seem right, it's because it's probably not. Like, the good things in life make sense. And when it doesn't
Right.
make sense, it's because God does. And those things we're not meant to understand. But if it doesn't make sense and it's good, it's probably from God.
Right.
But just because it's good doesn't mean it's from God, but it's not going to hurt you. So just live life, man, and love yourself and
Love it.
others. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
JJ, anything else you want to add today?
He already said it. My catchphrase.
He did,
Do
I
your
heard it.
research, yo.
I heard it.
I like it.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys
Yeah,
both for
yeah.
being here. I do appreciate the conversation.
Yeah.
And thank you for listening. Please like and subscribe. Stay safe and make good choices for yourself and those around you.
Let's go.
Do your research.